All right, everybody, day 3 of TDOC. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate everybody being with us. And as we did our roll call before we recorded, for those of you that have been with me every night thus far, I can't thank you enough, and I really do appreciate it. For those of you that are watching us on the recording, still appreciate you all that much as well. Now, there is some stuff that goes on in the chats, which maybe we don't necessarily talk about from night to night, but that just means if you kind of go back to any of the previous recordings, you will certainly get that. So, as always, before we kind of delve into tonight's guest, there's always a little bit of housekeeping that I feel like I need to do, just because we never know who's new and we never know who's watching the recording. Now, I want to remind you, first of all, as far as who is new, we are continuing to encourage people to add to our community. So if you are new to us and you are joining us live, make sure you drop your name in the chat. And then also make sure you remind us or tell us who referred you to be part of TDOC. And then both of you will get tickets to go into the raffle basket. We'll certainly talk about that a little bit more. Now, as we start out the program as well, if you guys have any particular questions, please be sure to jump in by raising your hand. We really love audience participation as much as possible. But at the same time, I usually am just totally vibing with my guests. And unfortunately, on the record, it maybe doesn't reflect it quite as much, but there's a lot going on in the chat, and I love that. So if you're joining us at another point in time, that's where all of the conversation happens, and that's where the community builds. And that's where all of you get to know each other as well as get to know myself. And again, the main goal is that I'm bringing new people to you, new places for you to follow, new things for you to learn. Last night was a perfect example of that. So I do want to remind you off of the top, we've got a couple of specials right now that are going on through TDOC. And while I'll say between tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night, it's going to be a little bit quiet. By the time we get to New Year's Eve and by the time we get to New Year's Day, stuff is going to hit the fan, and there's going to be so many new drops, so many additional specials happening. So again, for the recording, I'm just going to say you've got to go back to be able to hear what those are. Those of you that are with me live, of course, you can follow the chat, and Erin will continue to drop in the ongoing specials currently that you can be aware of. And then again, hold on, because there is so much more coming throughout the 12 days of community. And then again with that, so my raffle basket looks kind of empty right now, sadly, but remember, each day and each guest, something is going to be added to this basket, and we call this our keepsake basket. It's like a keepsake. It's like a treasure chest. So every guest is going to donate something to go into this basket, and then one lucky winner will get this basket, and we announce that on our wrap-up party, which is the last day on January 6th. The whole point is that throughout these 11 days, basically, throughout the 11 days in which you shop with me, for every $10 that you spend, you get one ticket that goes in for the drawing of this keepsake basket. So considering we're in the 4th annual TDOC, this has become a coveted basket. Like, the people who win it, we know who they are. And I will say thus far, it definitely is, the more tickets in, the better chance you have. But I am waiting for the year when like somebody just buys a $6 lippy and they win this basket. I think that would be epic. But for now, from our first night from Kimberly McAlinden and myself, you've got a $30 value of a Crafting with Cotswold class that, of course, gets you 1 ounce of curls, and then, of course, the frame, the pattern, and then really the opportunity to be with us on Zoom on January 16th for a 2-hour class. Then also last night from Alpaca Let's, there is a double banded alpaca yarn bracelet, which if you remember from last night, these are not available thus far in wholesale. Otherwise I would have had them. I will say you guys have been scoffing up the new product that's on my website, which are the single banded alpaca bracelets. And then Frankie, even though I haven't introduced you, and we might mention it again at the end, can you just talk about what's going to get added to the basket tonight from you?
Yes, I shipped, it's a Liberty Farms tote bag. It is three things of yarn, different colors. It's probably, you guys are like really awesome at yarn, but I'm not. So I don't know if it's good quality or not, but it's like a mix of different breeds.
It's
From
farm
the
yarn, which is totally
farm
cool.
yarn, yes, but I put three in there because even if it's not good, someone can make like a craft, you know? Like
Yeah.
there's yarn. And then there is a jar of salsa and a jar of marinara sauce from the vegetable garden, but we actually sent it to a co-packer to make it. So it's not like it was made at some in someone's like basement or something. It's like a nice jar. They're nice. A professional made them. It's not like something that I whipped up. So those are all in there.
So, I mean, and for the most part, guys, usually somebody just sends us one thing, and that's not to take away from any other guest that's with us and whatever they send. But I just want to say that that basket is going to start to fill up quick. And I think based on tracking, I will get those items tomorrow and be able to show you what Frankie has donated. So, again, that's our keepsake basket that we're going to continue to add to throughout the 11 days. And then the drawing will happen on the 12th day. So the other thing is to try to like formalize this a little bit because most of us are crafters, makers. You guys will notice I will try to do my best to change my background as much as possible to feature different patterns that we have. Most of the designers I work with, which really is Kimberly McAlinden, who you guys met the first night. Regardless, either way, these are all patterns that I have the ability to gift you with the appropriate purchase of yarn. So if you ever have any more detailed questions about what you say, what you see, you can always, drop it in the chat or you can hit me up later, which some people have done. And then each night I'm going to be wearing something different. And then we're also going to feature a different yarn and a different product every night. And you guys know we have the recipe share, which I was busy making this afternoon. So behind me, I still have the shoreline shawl. Actually, this is a different version. So I changed up the version of the Evie B sweater that was last year's knit along with Kimberly McAlinden and myself. The Sheridan shawl is actually year two for Kimberly and I. And then on the far dress form is the shoreline shawl, but I changed up the way to wear it, which is actually more of the way in which I would wear it. So that was our very first knit along. So all of these patterns are available, even if you didn't join us for the knit along. But remember, pre-registration is open for the 5th annual Life and Rainbows knit along. And big thank you to those of you that have jumped in already to join us. We're excited about that. And you know what? Go back to the first session of TDOC to hear a little bit more about what we're focusing on for this year. What I'm wearing, this is the Connecticut River scarf. This is a little bit of like a foreshadowing for some things that are going to come down the pike on New Year's Day. So this is just a really nice basic scarf. But when I say basic, what I love about it is in the early days, I love art yarn. And so many people love it, but they just never know what to do with it. And I had this vision of a cabled scarf where you could then weave the art yarn in after you were done. So that's exactly what this is. This was done by my friend Linda Unger. She worked for me years ago. She's one of my first spinning friends from way, way, way back in the day. So the Connecticut River scarf, it's 3 skeins of our worsted weight, and then it takes about 15 yards of art yarn that you are actually using a darning needle and weaving in when you're done knitting the scarf, because there's eyelets using yarn overs in between the cables that allows you to apply that afterwards. So I will say one of the reasons why I wanted to showcase this tonight is because, as many of you know, like mill changes, things that are happening. So a lot of like my OG yarns are really not longer going to be available. And so my worsted weight in particular, which is much more like an Aran, which I so love, as they are going and going and going, I feel like my children are leaving and going off to college or another life, and I'm never going to see them again. And that is the case. So these are the three, trying to get the tags out of the way. These are the three worsted weight yarns that I have left. Each of them, I will say, is less than a dozen skeins available. And that is what works for this particular pattern. So really what's going to happen is like some of my yarn lengths change. Patterns are really going to be discontinued for me. You could still use it for yarn substitution, but my worsted weight is really much more like an Aran. So we've got Purple Twilight, which you guys know is on a natural black base, and it's about 10% of dyed sari silk to really give those purple pops. And then those of you that are a love of my denim line, which I love, this is Sage Denim. So that's a tan or a fawn base with the various greens blended in. And then we've got that flaxen denim. So again, that same fawn base, and then with bits of yellows blended in. So these are my three worsted weights that are left. When they're gone, I'm not kidding.
Laura would love to see a close-up of the Connect scarf, please.
Sure. So I guess I'm just gonna have to like stand up and put it in the screen. But essentially, is that helping or is there too much glare? I'm not sure. But they are three
Thumbs up from Laura.
Yeah, so these are three cable rows. It is a worsted weight. I will say it's a heavier scarf. I mean, I love it. I like a longer yet narrow scarf. So I would say, I mean, for me, this is perfect, but I will definitely say if somebody lives in a warmer climate, it's not something that you're going to be able to utilize. It's long enough if I stand up, if you can see. So this is wrapped around my neck and yet it still comes to my waistline, which I love because if you want to wrap it around again, it could be doubled up. Everybody knows I love a good turtleneck. You cannot choke me enough. I've even have a turtleneck underneath this with the scarf on top of it and then my jean jacket, and you got to pop that collar. So that's how I love to wear this, work this. And again, it's three skeins of the worsted weight. So I just wanted to put it out there because, again, more so, we're running out of that worsted weight yarn. And secondly, we have some art yarn that will be coming down the pike, and that will be Thursday available. So just kind of keep that in mind for those of you that are shopping throughout the week.
Would you happen to remember what the art yarn in that particular sample is?
So so first of all, the base is white picket fence, which we don't have any longer. And then this particular art yarn is actually something that was probably done by Heidi from Dirty Girl Yarns, who is going to be part of our fiber chat on New Year's Day. This exact art yarn we don't have because the beauty of art yarn is it's hand spun, hand dyed, so super, super unique. So when it's gone, it's gone. But I have a bunch of art yarn that I'm sitting on that hasn't been on the website, and we do have some new stuff coming back. So that's why I thought it would be great to kind of showcase this in case anybody was looking to add this to their knit list, and also give you a reason to maybe jump into some of the new stuff coming down the pipe. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions. With that, I want to change gears. I showed my product. Did I show my I can't even remember. I was showing them before. Erin, did I show products or not show products? I don't think I did. So I need to quick. Like I said, we're going to focus on yarns, which I showed you guys, patterns, products, and then recipes. So for products, for tonight's product, I don't know why I'm like, this is just making me laugh. I just have like these animals in a bowl. So it has been the holiday time. These we usually get only around the holidays, but they're a little pig, a little rabbit, and a little llama that are wrapped up in like a little knitted blanket. It's like these little like baby tacos. They're so cute. I do only get them around the holidays. They usually sell out, and then we wait until the next holiday. So literally these four little babies and then two extras. I know we have two pigs and we might have two rabbits. I'm not sure.
I think
Or
there's a kitten.
two, like, yeah, I don't have the kitten here. So I have the rabbit and I have, that might have been my error. So it looks like I have two rabbits and then a llama. I know I have two pigs and then maybe I have a kitten. So the kitten is not featured. But anyway, so these are, I mean, they are ornaments, but they're still super cute. So I'm featuring these this evening just because I know you guys are shopping this week. And then these other critters, I cannot explain why everybody loves them so much, but I am glad. So it's Jill's find. I will give every bit of credit to Jill, my office manager. So these little sheep are in knitted sweaters. Yes, they're called ornaments, but they have nothing to do with Christmas, and everybody is loving them. We have had to restock so many times. And even as I was trying to find the six colors, I don't know why this little guy in the green sweater, and if Gina is on tonight, I mean, we even had to hold Gina's order to get the one with the green sweater back so we could send it to her. So there's six different colors of these cute little sheep in these knitted sweaters. They're not necessarily ornaments, they're just adorable. So I think it just depends on what your preference is, but I just wanted to say that these little buggers are restocked, and these we will keep year round because I think people just really find them fun. So that's our products highlight for this evening. One more thing, because I worked really hard this afternoon on making my recipe share. So Erin and I are streamlining what we're able to do for you throughout TDOC. And this particular one, it was an actual recipe that has an actual link. I cannot take credit for it. The funny thing is, this is going to go way back to a local yarn store that is actually no longer. A friend of mine who was a frequent visitor there, and it was a spinning friend of mine, shared it with me, and then now years later I continue to share it with my followers. So that was last night's recipe, the sugared cranberries. So you just never know where things are going to come from. If you missed last night, then you'll just have to kind of check in or drop me a line if you want that recipe. But the leftover cranberries, because I had so many, I said, I'm going to make my super special. It's like literally called cranberry sauce extraordinaire. So a friend of mine passed it on to me. I was making it this evening. Erin's got the link. She dropped it in the chat. And I just want to add a couple of things to it because I know some of you are diving right into my recipes, which I so love because I'm not a baker. I have no time for any of this. But these are things that I do around the holidays. So here is my cranberry sauce. Now, I will tell you guys, if you don't like traditional cranberry sauce, or if your family doesn't, I promise you, please try this. The one thing I like about this is I will make it in a big batch. And because a lot of people don't eat a lot of it, which I understand, I will then add this to my yogurt in the morning. I will add it to my cottage cheese. Like if I just feel like I want to have a little bit of a sweet snack, I will munch on it. So it is multi-purpose. And the benefit of it is, again, everything that's going in minus the sugar is healthy. So modifying the recipe that we posted in the chat, I will say I do half of the amount of sugar just because I want to reduce that a little bit. The other thing is, in the past, you used to be able to go to the grocery store and find a package of like mixed dried fruit. And because I was shopping tonight for it, you can no longer find that, or at least I couldn't find it. And so instead, to add a little bit of like a tropical flavor and a little bit of sweetness, I did dried pineapple and dried mango. And I chopped that up and I put that into my mix. And the other thing is, I personally don't like to put nuts in it, so I don't do the pecans and I don't add salt. And the only other part of the recipe in which it totally lies is it says to do all of this and then simmer for half an hour while your cranberries burst and then like enjoy, and that's a lie. So much like the applesauce, you have to simmer it for quite some time, and then I usually finally give up, and then I just take one of those hand blenders and then I just blend it so that that way it's not necessarily super smooth, but otherwise I don't find that the cranberries burst like the recipe talks about. So that is tonight's recipe share. I didn't even get to try it. I had to put it on the porch to cool it down. So, I mean, you're still getting like the tartness, of course, from the cranberries, but there is sugar in it, 2 cups worth. But you're still getting the sweetness because there's apples, there's pears, there's oranges that are added in, and then the dried fruit, I did the pineapple and the mango. So you're getting a lot of sweet from that as well. So it's not your canned cranberry sauce with ridges. I get that. And maybe not everybody loves it, but if it's something you think you might enjoy, I encourage you. And then again, it's something that you can add to, again, your yogurts or anything else. Or if I feel like I want something a little sweet, again, I definitely think it's a better treat than diving into cookies. So I will continue. I know what my recipe is going to be for tomorrow night, and it's going to be one of those recipes that's either going to be like a fail or success because it's something I want to try new using a pumpkin puree and a healthy version of it. So stay tuned for that. We'll see what happens. All right. I'm exhausted already. All right. You ready, Frankie?
I'm ready. Yes.
All right. I gave Frankie the rundown. I told her there was a bit of like housekeeping and stuff like that that we had to do ahead of time. I think I've covered all of my bases. So, guys, I do want to say again, welcome to, I think, what is going to be another kind of riveting and geeking out evening. I chatted with Frankie a little bit beforehand because I wasn't really sure like the best way to introduce. I mean, essentially, I got a phone call to come for a shearing job. So Frankie was a new client of mine this year. She works for Liberty Farms, which I will allow her to explain that. And I thought the first place to start, which I'm going to need your help, is how you learned about me. And I just love that as an example of the power of social media, because I don't remember if it's your partner or a friend, but there's somebody else that knew me that then, you know, you got this job and then you had this llama that needed to be sheared. So help me put all that together again.
Yeah, so I started, it's not a new job anymore, but I started a job in summer of 2024 managing Liberty Farms. And I have only worked at farms where we have sheep, or I mean, we have dogs as the livestock, guardian animals. And I start at this farm and it's like, okay, well, you have sheep, but you also have a llama and you have a donkey. So these are species I've never worked with before. Like, don't have anyone in a donkey world or, like the alpaca llama world for like, resources, getting their feet done, shearing and whatnot. So I knew that Larry, who's our llama, needed to be shorn. He looked crazy. Like I'm a sheep person. I work with hair sheep, but still see some of them need to be shorn. And you're like, okay, like he looked tattered, right? And Larry, yeah, he did not look good. So I'm like asking everyone, like Aaron Liu, who's going to be on this, is the sheep shearer. I'm like, Aaron, do you know anyone? Just on Instagram asking people, they're like, no, we don't know anyone that will come just shear one llama. So I'm like, okay. So my friend who's super connected in the farm world and like follows a ton of people on Instagram, he's like, you should reach out to Tabitha. So he sent me Tabitha's page. I'm like, okay, Tabitha already looks like a vibe. Like it's you look cool. I'm like, okay, she's tattooed. She looks like a vibe. I was like watching her videos. I'm like, okay, this is someone that I'll vibe with. Because farming and like shearing or like just the whole farm world, it can be a little like intense. And there are people that are like, yeah, really intense. And you're like, I'm like scared to reach out, but instantly vibed with Tabitha. I was like, I have one llama. I'm in upstate New York. Don't even know, like, is this going to cost like $5,000? I don't know how much it costs to shear a llama. Like, I have no idea. But Tabitha called me and I felt like an interview, which I love, to be like, what's the situation? How old is he? And I'm like, I have no information on this animal. Like, there's no records at this farm. Like, all I know is he needs to be shorn. but we had like an hour-long conversation just talking about sheep and shearing and like farming. And I instantly knew, I'm like, okay, an hour-long conversation was about shearing one llama. I'm like, okay, this person's like an expert. So yeah, we coordinated and it was like, yeah, our energy just matched. Like
Now,
just
to my defense, because right, I get a lot of these calls,
yeah.
and for me, like I have to understand what I'm walking into because we both know when I walked in, to Larry the llama, complete, cliche, but not knowing, like you not knowing really what his background is, like I'm not interested in a rodeo. And I know when I showed up to your place, like we were both just like saying our blessings. And in the
Yeah.
end, no, and right. And in the end, I mean, he was absolutely amazing. And for various reasons, which we'll talk about too. But when you're talking about an adult animal that seemingly does not have a lot of experience on the halter, on the lead, which is what I need for shearing. I mean, I think most of my community, at this point, which dang, we're at like a high 35, so I think most of my people know the restraining chute that I utilize. I'm not looking to rodeo, I'm not tying down. So there has to be a sense of cooperation. So, yeah, that's why I spend all that time because I also don't want to show up and be like, all right, this is impossible, but you got to pay me something because that's my time. So I feel like, and I appreciate, and that's where I wanted to start off with this because so much of then why I was like, I want to have Frankie on this year because one, I think I don't even know anything about Liberty Farms, but I also just really appreciated your enthusiasm, your passion, and I hate to say, but like what I was like when I was your age, when I worked for Cooperative Extension, when I worked for somebody else's farm, but yet I was there endless hours and there until 2 o'clock in the morning, and everything I did was for that farm like it was my farm. I know what that's like. And so I just, that's what I felt when I did have a chance to talk to you. But like, it could have been a complete shit show, like, right? So we both, like, and you were honest. You're like, I have no idea. So I also, and that's what I want to say to your credit, as an organization, everybody does the best that they can. Whoever is managing it, I'm sure they're not there day to day. So the fact that you didn't have a lot of information, but yet you knew that this animal needed care, that's no disrespect to the person before, but it's like, I'm here, this is what we're doing now. So that I also, admire as well.
Thank you.
You're
It was
welcome.
a fun day though. I feel like Larry, like that was just so interesting and it was good. And someone else shared the farm call that lived in like
Yes.
Massachusetts or somewhere close, but she brought her alpaca in the trunk of her minivan. And this alpaca was just like so well behaved because she's like for students at a school. And
Yeah,
she
so and because you're in upstate New York, but so she is actually an ag teacher in
yeah.
Connecticut. And in Connecticut, which I like want to be in Connecticut as a high school student, the high schools in Connecticut actually they have ag high schools, and it's not like where I am in New York, and I'm not sure upstate New York where you have the BOCES system, but they literally have farms as agricultural schools for high school students. So she works at one of them, but she lives like you're here in Ghent and she's in, is it Austerlitz? Does that sound
Yeah, somewhere super close.
yeah, so it was just a matter of, she had, she was at home. And so yeah, I mean again, that's another cool thing of how like I can get different people together. You guys essentially shared the farm call. Obviously you got to see something on that behalf where her animal is very well versed, used to me, used to the system, and you guys got to chat a bunch. And again, super cool that you were like, absolutely, like have somebody else come by. So it was just like a perfect picture of everything that I would hope for, as a shearer for sure.
Yeah, and her alpaca was just like so chic and like well behaved. And like I feel like she was a good role model for Larry, who was like a little bit more like feral. Like I like a love connection kind of like it seemed like a storybook or something, like this very chic alpaca, like literally in the back of a minivan. Like that was crazy. I love it. That was
Yeah,
incredible.
and I mean, this is completely jumping forward, but I think I texted you, and to be honest, I'm not sure if you responded. So you said that you know Aaron, who, for everybody, Aaron is going to be a guest at the tail end of TDOC. Now, I know him because he's a professional shearer, mostly for sheep, at a very different level than myself, which I'm happy to admit. But you have hair sheep, so how do you know Aaron?
So I have hair sheep, but we have white dorpers. So most of them shed, but in the flock, the original flock of the sheep, there was some Ile-de-France genetics, and then
And
there was
that's a
also,
dairy breed.
yep, and there's also some Texel genetics.
Oh, okay.
So the original ewe flock had, and this is from Ulf Kinsel, he's up in the Finger Lakes region. He used to sell Texel White Dorper cross ewes and rams. Now he only does White Dorper, but there are still some of those genetics in the ewe flock. And also with the hair sheep, even, that they shed as they get older and their adrenal function changes, they still need to be shorn or like cleaned up a little bit. Um, I had a really bad fly strike a few years ago, and some ewes that probably didn't need to be shorn, but they still, needed like wool trims and stuff. So now I'm super paranoid about that. So I get any ewe where I'm like, the white dwarfers can also get those like kinky curly,
Yeah.
I like
It's like
calling it fur.
toupees. I was just
Yeah.
like they have like toupees. It'll
Yes,
be
and
like
around their neck.
patches or be like a reverse mohawk.
Exactly. Yeah, some of the older, if they still have that on them from the previous year, like I'll give them old trims and stuff, then I'm like, okay, you got to be shorn. So Aaron would come to, I used to manage Kinderhook Farm, which is in Ghent, New York, and we had 250 ewes. So
Of what type of sheep?
there were it's the sheep that I have now at Liberty Farm are from the Kinderhook.
Okay.
So it's the same situation. So I met Aaron originally at Kinderhook Farm, and then I had him back to shear this before lambing in March, the flock at Liberty Farm.
So just to kind of clean up any of the hair sheep.
Yeah, and I keep some pets. So there was a terminal sire Texel. So usually we don't keep replacement ewes or lambs from the Texel Dorper crosses. They're just for meat. But sometimes you get a bottle lamb that's a Texel Dorper cross that you just like need to keep as a pet. I have some of those who definitely have to be shorn. So he's doing the cleaning up of the crosses, but also my wethers, my pets, they need a good haircut.
So I'm going to clarify some terminology, and we'll do this throughout. And again, the I will say like terminology, the technicalities, like I really do think like sometimes the non-fiber focused talks that we do for TDOC, people love the most. So do not hold back whatsoever. And the first thing, there might be some people that don't realize that there are hair sheep. So while we have wool breeds, which is what the variety of people focus on for knitting crocheting, although we also talk about how not every sheep that has wool to be shorn is going to be next to skin soft. They all have a purpose. But then there are sheep that come from various regions that are hair breeds. So essentially, they might look a little fuzzy, but they should shed out just like your dog or cat, as the seasons change. But then there are sometimes patches or, like at some point they kind of look homeless, I'll call it, where they've got like things hanging off of them. And so is it like essential for their health to have them shorn? No. But sometimes it's just a matter, right, of like having them look cleaner, getting that all off, just for the overall I think really just look health, which I admire. And I have people that will bring me in, for that too. So these hair breeds are obviously meat focused. And so a lot of Liberty Farms and, what we're going to continue to talk about are animals that are being raised for meat purposes. A lot of what made me think about this is for those of you that have been with me for the 4 years of TDOC, you might remember Autumn Olive Farms. They were in my first year. They have the most, in my opinion, amazing pastured pork production. that I'm aware of, and especially from my animal science background, I so admire the science that goes into their program and their breeding program and the animals that they create. So that was a lot of what I thought about, especially because I know nothing about your pig part, but that's all I see. I feel like on your stories, which I love too. And I know a lot of people want to be following that. So I do want to double check, do you run the Liberty Farms Instagram, or should they be following you personally? And are you, I'm sure you're okay with that.
Yeah, personally is where you're gonna get more animal photos. I just got the login for the Liberty Farms one, so I would say like in 6 months, like once I'm like in full force on the Liberty Farm ones, it's worth a follow. But now it's more like we have a store in Brooklyn, so it's a lot of like that and like the retail side of it. But if you're looking for like cute baby animal pictures, and like I bring a lot of like humor and like funny stuff to my Instagram about farming and work. So if you're looking for like, yeah, I'm not a troll, but if you're looking for like funny farm content but also cute animal photos, I would say follow my personal one.
And I know that Erin is probably dropping both of those, but just in case if somebody is seeing this and not being able to see the chat, could you just share your Instagram handle?
Yes, it's at Frankie Danks. So FrankiDankz. And my thing says sheeple person in my bio. That's
And like, so I'm going to circle back because this is where my brain goes. That's not even your name. Your name is Madeline.
Yes. My
So,
name is Madeline Franklin. But in college, I went by Maddie for most of my life. But starting like end of high school, college, people started calling me Frankie, and it just like stuck. Like I wasn't a Maddie anymore. Like Frankie has just become my name, my nickname, which I love. Because especially being a young woman in farming in a pretty like, this isn't a bad thing, like male dominated family farm community where we are, people will be like, "Oh, Frankie manages Liberty Farms." And then I meet them and they're like, "Oh, wait, you're Frankie." Like people assume I'm going to be a man.
yeah,
So I feel like that gives me more street cred, which is like horrible, like, that's a thing, but especially in this field, like it's nice to kind of catch people off guard when I meet them in person for the first time
I
because
love
it's hard work. Yeah. And like, no, I'm Frankie wearing like my pink Carhartt bibs. Like, hi, no, it's just me.
I have a purple Carhartt jacket, and
Yeah.
I am so not necessarily a purple person. I might be more of a pink person, but yeah, I hear you. I mean, actually, I will say, I don't know what you have for your wet weather gear, but I have Good Runs. There, it's like a fishing gear. So when it's raining, that's my bibs on the farm, and they're black, but the emblem, like the logo, is in pink because they make them for women. And then I just got like a jacket for Christmas, like still in pink, like with the logo. So I love that. Like I love that companies like that like do realize that there's those of us out there, that are wearing this same stuff, but maybe just want to have a little, like just a little flair.
Yeah, I love it. My farm fashion is like so out of control. Just 'cause I feel like it freaks the guys out that I work with. I'm like pink and camo and bright colors, and Uttertex makes the best rain bibs in my opinion. So I have pink Uttertex, I have purple. Yes, it's just a vibe at the
Hey,
farm.
I'm all open to new brands, so I'll have to look into that for sure. And look, I get the average person that's probably listening to us doesn't probably need like this rain gear and outdoor gear, but you know what? It's just still good to know that the industry is out there supporting and recognizing. But I love that you highlighted that while industry merchandise gear, it recognizes it, like not the whole world recognizes it. And that's why I'm excited to have Erin on later in TDOC. Myself as a professional shearer, like in the early days when I knew that I was going to like a shearing clinic, I mean, it was the good old boys club, and I knew that's what it was going to be. And it was literally like myself and two other women. I'm like, we are just all here to fend for ourselves. Like, it was a lot different. So I know it's changed, but it still needs to continue to evolve in terms of like women in agriculture. And even just like today, actually I have to say it's so stupid, and I love my people at the gym, but like I'm leaving the gym, and one of the guys is like, is that your husband's truck? I'm like, no. I'm like, that's my big 3500 black dually diesel GMC. Thank you. Like, it's mine. So just people still aren't used to seeing that. I mean, my community is, but so it's still hard, right? There's still stereotypes in every different way of it. But regardless, that aside, tell me about your background. Because again, I tell people, like, I could have asked you a million and one questions. I worked for you. We talked about what we needed to talk about that day. And then, we kind of like loosely keep in touch on Instagram. I asked you like months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I so want you to be on as a guest. And I could have asked a million and one questions leading up to tonight, but my style is I would just rather leave it as it is because I'm so naturally curious. And that's what this is about. So, like, what is your background? How did you arrive in agriculture? Obviously, you've had other jobs leading up to this one. So, talk to us through that.
First thing, should I turn the light on this in here? Is it okay for now?
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. I'm just a tomato because I'm next to a stove. So,
No, you're good. So I am from Southern California. That's where I am right now, actually, for the
so you
holidays.
were born and raised there,
Yep. I'm from
and now
Orange
you're
County.
stuck in New York where there's snow.
Yes, but I love New York. I love the seasons. Here it's like 66 degrees and sunny, but like it's it's the same weather for the most part the year round, which is great, except for if you're a farmer, right? Like there's not a lot of water here. The grass doesn't grow. And the most important thing for me is moving to the East Coast is we have seasons, so it forces you to slow down. I've never been one to slow down. So when I was farming in California, which I'll kind of go through my journey, there's no rest, it's you're farming all day, every day. You're grazing. There's no like chill. There's no forced rest. There's no hay. Well, there is, but it's not like, okay, it's November 15th. Cows are coming to the barn. Sheep are coming to the barn. Put your net fence away. Like you can actually relax. Um, so yeah, I'm from Orange County, the OC, which is like there's no farms around here. Like you don't have 4-H in school, you don't have any of that agricultural education, like you have no idea growing up here what any of that is. Maybe it's changed, but when I grew up, I had no idea. And then nobody in my family is a farmer. My mom, and you fiber people might know Loro Piana. Do you know what Loro Piana is? It's like this very fancy brand where they source like the finest textiles in the world, like vicuña and merino, and make these like $10,000 sweaters. But it's like very fancy. So my mom works for them in
Okay.
California.
Can
And
you, is that like, I was just going to say, actually, Susan, my friend Susan from Sandpiper Yarn, she's a
yeah,
hand dyer and spinner. She said, oh, yes, fancy and expensive. So,
yeah,
I mean, either I can never get to my keyboard the way I'm set up. If somebody can drop that in,
it's crazy. Like,
that's amazing. I mean, that's just a really good find for people. Like, that's the reasons why we do this kind of stuff. I've never heard of that. Last night was something I never heard of. So that's amazing.
yeah, it's like she just started that job last year, but it's funny that my mom, who's like the opposite of a farmer, she's just like very fancy and like sophisticated, and like she'll come to the farm and
But
like
does she have a background in textiles? Like, how did she land that job?
she just loves like really beautiful, high quality things. She's just like a fashionista. Like she's the best, but I don't know how
Well,
I
it
she
is so
loves me. I
sick.
am a
I mean, if
farmer.
that's where you grew up, I'm like, all I could think of course, is like Bravo and all like the
Yeah,
tragedy.
100%, like Real Housewives type. And I love it. It's so funny. So I don't know how if I'm so connected to farming, like how much I've connected to the livestock and animals, but like it's
Wait, are you like literally the black sheep of the family?
not like the bit. I feel like black sheep can have like a bad connotation
Oh, no,
sometimes.
no, no. Like I was
But
gonna
yes,
say, I
kind
used
of.
that last night. Like just being different.
Yeah, definitely. Like I love coming home to visit, but like I've moved so much of my life and like I'm so open to new opportunities, and I found farming when I was in my early 20s. I was first vegetable farming and then I transitioned to
Did you go to, so you're saying early 20s, but did you go to college for any of this?
I went to the University of San Francisco and have a um, degree in environmental science.
Okay.
At the time, I like wasn't eating meat. I thought that beef was like the worst thing to ever happen, and that's a lot what that's what a lot what they were teaching in my undergrad degree about just like climate change and beef in the meat industry. So I was so appalled, like I'm not going to support this. I had no idea what really farm to table, like any of this stuff was. So after college, I moved back to LA and I was working at a sustainable butcher shop. It was an organic farm who had a butcher shop down here. And then I ended up working on their farm, which is in far northern California, like almost to the Oregon border. I started running their vegetable program because they didn't have one. And I've always had a lot of gumption, right? So I'm like I take things and I run with it. And my work ethic, I've just like have such a crazy work ethic and I always want to be like excellent. So I started this vegetable farm at this huge farm, had no experience. And one day these like they were lambing, they had like thousands of sheep there. This like old timer that worked at the farm forever was like complaining about bottle lambs. We don't want to raise them, blah blah blah. Like he was like this old man, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like these three little lambs need to be bottle fed. Like I'll take them. So that was my first introduction to livestock and sheep. And like since that day, I've just been like so obsessed with livestock farming and the animals, and like I'm on my path to wisdom and
So in
excellence.
that sense, you're all self-taught.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, yeah, all self-taught, which I love. And like there's, yeah, ups and downs. Like I've had some really hard lessons learned by being self-taught, but
It doesn't matter if you go to school, which I did, you still
yeah,
have hard lessons because
yeah,
you're still self-taught. School can only teach you so much.
yeah. So definitely self-taught. So I try now to like, hire people that the interns and stuff that also have like no experience to give them the chance because I think I just got lucky along the way, like, getting these opportunities and whatnot. But for being 29 years old, like I have so much experience that I feel like women my age really only would get growing up in on a farm or in an agricultural community. So I don't know how I'm really here, but I'm here.
So I feel, I'm not sure if I missed, how did you manage to migrate from California to New York?
I had a friend who worked for a farm in Pine Plains,
Oh
and
my
they were
gosh,
just
yeah, I used to shear in Pine Plains. It's beautiful.
it's so sweet. So it's only like 45 minutes from where I live now.
Yeah.
And they had sheep and they had it was a really small farm and they were looking for help for like a short period of time. And at that time, I had just
Oh,
moved.
wait, I have to interrupt because this is what I do. Do you know the farm stand that's in Pine Plains or just out of it? They're actually known for their flock of sheep that they raise and they make cheeses. It's a really relatively big farm stand. And actually, the people that I sheared for in Pine Plains, they would summer the sheep from this farm. And at the moment, I can't think of the name of it, but this farm had llamas because, so basically, they ran sheep and it was a
Mhm.
lot for dairy and they had a huge farm stand, very like because Pine Plains is very bougie. So it was a very nice, like big farm stand. And then I want to say it begins with an M. And then this farm where they would like summer their sheep, they also had guard llamas. And that's how I got the job of like shearing for these guard llamas that were just like vacationing at this other people's place in Pine Plains. I can't. I just didn't know if maybe with it being, and I'm pretty sure it begins with an M, but that's about as best as I can remember. I mean,
There was Old Chatham sheep herders that was a sheep dairy, and then they moved to the Finger Lakes, but they were in my neighborhood before in Ghent. But I
yeah,
don't know.
that I've heard of because I've heard of that cheese. I don't know. I'll have to think about it and we can chat outside. But I know like again that was my experience shearing in Pine Plains, and I remember it was a flock of sheep, that actually like vacation, because some people will do that, right? If you only have so much acreage. So the sheep ended up vacationing at this people's home, who had like 20 rolling acres, and they had some guard llamas to manage the sheep flock. And then that's where I came in as a job, to shear those. So I'm gonna have to think of that. But
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, but I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, those are all the behind the scene things, right, that people don't know about. And so, but you migrated all the way to New York just because of a job?
Yeah, I was in between. So I left this farm in Northern California and I was living in Portland, Oregon, and I was commuting from Portland to farm. And I was just like, I lived in cities for a huge portion of my life and thought it'd be fun for me again, but it wasn't. So I was a bit lost. I moved back home for like literally 3 months, and then this opportunity came up in Pine Plains. And I've always been like, I'm a Pisces, so I trust my gut. And my gut was like, okay, um, take this opportunity. It was only supposed to be for 6 weeks, and then it turned to a full-time job. And then I got started working at Kinderhook Farm, and then now I'm where I am.
So I'm just gonna pull in Erin for a second because she's got her hand raised. So usually, so Erin, go ahead. I'm assuming somebody has a question we didn't see, or oh,
Question. Oh, let's see. How did your brain?
Okay. Yeah. How did your brain go from beef is awful to working on a meat farm?
A good question. So in California, if you drive up I don't know if anyone's been to California, but if you drive from where I am right now in Southern California up to the San Francisco Bay Area, if you have your window down on the 5 freeway in Central California, it's all feedlots. So it smells like cattle and methane, and it reeks, right? So being from where I am, that's how you think, and that's what they teach that meat is. And when you see like PETA videos of like these crazy factory farms, like that was my vision of what farming was and like where our meat came from, and like that smell just kind of stuck with me. And they don't really tell you in an environmental science degree about, pasture raised, grass fed and finished animals. Like you don't get that side of the education, or at least I didn't. So once I started working on a grass fed pasture based operation, and we didn't have that smell, and like you just see the animals rotationally grazing and how much like healthier they are. That really opened my eyes to the farm to table, pasture based, that kind of thing. And as I started getting more involved in livestock farming and understanding the animals more and their nutrition, and just seeing how much happier or how happy and healthy they were in a pasture based system, and how good the meat tasted, and it wasn't inhumane, it wasn't unethical. It's like these animals are living beautiful lives. I want to work my hardest in order to make sure that every animal that I raise has an amazing life. And I want to be really proud of, the meat. I want to honor these animals, but I think I also had an aha moment. Like, there's not going to be a day where people wake up and they're like, the whole world's never going to stop eating meat. So I'm taking it upon myself to really produce really amazing, great quality meat and educate people as to like the nasty smell in the 5 freeway, or like, you know, chicken factories that you see in like PETA videos. Like, that's not the reality of like, all meat ever. Because a lot of people think it is. Like it's like the creepy chickens in cages on the back of a truck, and like seeing those videos, it's pretty nuts, you know?
and I mean, there's all different perspectives. I mean, it's funny, Deborah, in the chat, one of our favorite friends, she says in Western Kansas, they say that smells like money. My husband is a farrier. So when he comes home smelling like burnt hoof, I mean, a lot of times I'll be like, ugh, I'm like, you got to take your clothes off. I'm like, you stink. And he's like, that's the smell of money. That's one side of it. The other side of it, logistically, though, is yes, I mean, we're really a great open forum here. And, I think regardless of what people's perceptions are, regardless of what people's beliefs are, and even I work for a vet tech program where increasingly the number of students, there was a period, it's actually cycled back again, but in the middle, I would say, in the middle of the students that I had worked with that were involved in the program really got to where they were very, uh, you know, animal rights, vegan. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I think it was just we had to work harder to explain to students that there are various perspectives and there are various degrees of different things. So, I think, again, these are open conversations that we always try to have to give people various perspectives because social media, propaganda, all of that is just going to only project one view, right? And again, I'm just going to go back to my friends at Autumn Olive Farm. They raise pigs for meat, but they love their pigs. They have their pigs that they will keep as pets because they've had various problems. They've got their little problem child pen, or their boars, like their herd basis, if you will. And so I think it's such a good picture for people to get that even though animals are raised for meat, you have to remember, and I'm so passionate about this, if you don't care for your animals, if you're not giving them a good life, if you're not making them happy and healthy, as much as you don't like to hear this, you're not going to have a happy and healthy product for you to enjoy. Because stress and uncomfortability and all of those things, does not produce a valuable meat product. So all of the stuff that you see in propaganda that pictures farmers in a negative light, yes, those are not happy animals, but that's also not going to be a productive and profitable farmer. And
Exactly.
and I so wholeheartedly believe that. Now, in the yarn world, like, it's tough. It's a tough balance. I mean, I have people that won't buy some parts of my yarn because it has silk in it, and that means you're killing worms. People want to know that the sheep and the wool that's being used, especially if I use merino, that they're not using certain practices that are prevalent in New Zealand and Australia. And I get all of that. I mean, I think there's certain things and certain practices that can be avoided. But I think that these open and honest discussions, if we eat meat, it's better to be knowledgeable, right, about where it comes from and how they're being raised, so that we can support the people that do it in the way that we are comfortable with. The hard thing is that comes at a dollar value. And I hate
Totally.
I hate that so much. Myself, as I will be the first person to say to this community, I was never a vegan or vegetarian by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't eat beef or pork for a really long time. Everybody knows I've got little potbelly pigs that live in my house, and I love them dearly. But I just found for my body style and for my diet that I had to change things. And, I switched that around. And now the joke I'll say is, if you stand still long enough, I might eat you. Like, I consume more meat than I can even possibly dream up. And the meat that I want to put in my body, then I want it to be as nice and as natural as possible. But it is a struggle that comes at a cost. And so I'm curious to hear that aspect of, CSA. And I encourage everybody, as we're going through these conversations, I get that it's not necessarily fiber related, but there are some fiber related things. But regardless, I mean, I get that. It's still education, it's still knowledge, and I know everybody loves that. So let's circle back. And so, in terms of Liberty Farms, if you could just give everybody a picture, because I don't even know it. I showed up to shear a llama that I knew guarded meat sheep. That is it. I did my job and I left. I did my whole Marys. Everything went great. I was like, thank you, Jesus. And off we went. And I also got a tip of some meat, which I proceeded to eat along the way on my travels. So that's my experience, but I know it's huge. And I know that there's while I asked if there was an online store because I would love for people to support you, I know you told me there wasn't. So I know that there's a local store, and I know that there's a store in Park Slope, which is a very nice neighborhood in New York City. So give us the full perspective of what Liberty Farms is and what they produce.
Yeah, so Liberty Farms, we have 1,050 acres ish. So previously it was around 600 acres, the whole farm. We have a livestock program, so it's beef cattle. I have about 70 mom cows. We have 45 ewes. I'm growing this flock. I just restarted the sheep flock, so I have 45 mom sheep.
All particular, because again, I only saw them. And is that all but one particular hair breed or?
Yeah, they're white Dorpers.
Okay.
The mamas are. And then we have around 1,000 egg-laying hens, which is a lot. And we did 2,800 meat birds last year.
Okay.
And I have 5 mama pigs and a boar.
That's it. I feel like that's all I see. I
I
feel
just love the piggies so much. And I like to my thing is like domesticating livestock. So I have like so many animal friends and I just like to hang out with them. So
I feel like you were gonna say you have like 1,000 pigs because every
so
time I click on your stories, that's all I see are the pigs, honestly.
I love the piggies. Well, we had my mom's farrowed in the spring, so we had like, 50 to 60 feeder pigs all up until the fall. And yeah, well, I just sold a litter of piglets who I really loved, but they were like all domesticated and friendly, so I feel like that was a lot of my content because they were so cute. I miss them.
And so, for just education's sake, so farrow is the term for pigs to give birth. Just like if a cow gives birth, it's called calving. I mean, various animals have various definitions of which most of it relates. Lambs, they are in lambing, but I find pigs are always so interesting because pigs farrow. I don't know where that comes from. That's not related to any of the genders, but so that's a good new terminology for you guys. You know what? It's funny because at one point there was some, I don't know, a lot of my community plays some sort of like word Scrabble thing on like the computer, and they all were like, oh my gosh, you know what the word of the day is? So if Pharaoh ever comes up, you can thank us both.
Yeah, it is an interesting word. I feel like when I do say it to a non-farmer, they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like my pig farrowed, 12 piglets. They're like, "Wait, what?" But yeah, the piggies have huge litters. They have teats on both sides, so very different from the ruminants, which is the cows, and the sheep who, have their babies, they clean them off.
Well,
Um,
then totally different because cows have four teats, sheep
yeah.
have two, and then pigs will usually have 16.
Yeah, like 12 to 16.
Okay.
So they just lay on their side for the most part, and we'll just have piglet after piglet after piglet. There's no mom getting up to clean the baby. There's no mom like maybe
Because they're born precocious. So that's the other thing too. Basically, that means they shoot out the back and they are like up and moving.
they're ready to go. Yeah. So mom lays on her side, and it's just like baby number one, baby number like it's just I'm obsessed. I love the babies. That's my favorite part of my job. But pigs giving birth is so it's wild. Like your 2 hours, you have like 15 babies. I love it. And you lose count, and counting piglets is like the hardest thing ever. It's so hard to get a head count on the babies. I love them. So yeah, that's why you see pigs a lot because I love the piggies.
Well, I love that. I mean, I only have one piggy left in the house. I used to have two piggies.
They're
But my
in the house.
piggy was that?
They live in the house.
Yeah, like see, we've really not. Yeah, I have Vietnamese pop. I mean, I only have one left, but I have Vietnamese potbelly pigs. I tell him all the time. I'm like, dude, there are pigs that live outside. He right now is in a cozy cave bed next to the wood burning stove. That
What
is
is the
where
baby?
Piggity.
Yes, I love it. Wait,
So
so
we used to have
the
Pansy
outfit?
and Piggity, and Pansy actually, I will say, guys, so it was during TDOC last year that I lost her and I had to put her to sleep.
Oh,
It was like devastating. She almost made it to 20. She would have been 20 in March, and
God.
we put her down after New Year's. And I still ran with TDOC. I had to. I was like a freaking bawling mess. But, we did it because it's real life, right? And the show must go on. But yeah, she almost made it to 20. And then this little nugget, we were just talking about tonight. I'm like, I don't know how old he is. He's probably like 12-ish. It's actually her nephew. And yeah, they live in the house and they're cozy and comfy, and everybody gets like various, videos and things like that. So yeah, I'm totally obsessed. And the funny thing is if I just posted, I think my deer, which people think I raise deer now instead of all my other animals because I have my deer I'm obsessed with. But so between my deer and my pig, I could probably just shut it down and have a farm of that and people would be happy. People love pigs. Love pigs.
People do love pigs. They're so, I don't know, their personalities. I feel like all the animals except for the chickens really do have big personalities, but pigs, like, and something about them, I feel like you can also read not their body language, obviously, but their faces and their sounds. Like you can understand what they're saying more than the other animals. Like pigs, I don't know. I feel like I can just understand them pretty well.
I'm only laughing because, like, and they really, I mean, look, all the animals have personalities, right? And this
Yeah.
is like, so I digress. But like, Pansy was like super chill, loved everybody, would get along with everybody. She loved my cat. She would love to like nuzzle in his little belly and push him along the floor. Piggity is like my rain man. He's a bit like, I think, autistic. Like, he's got to do things a certain way. Everything's got to be a certain way. Pansy would jump on the couch and like cuddle with us. Like, I would rather sleep on the couch and sleep with her than like be upstairs in my bed. Piggity has to be in between your feet. He loves feet. Don't ask to pick him up. Don't ask him to roll over. He'll roll on his side. That's all you're going to get. And he's like definitely like going out the house, got to come back, touch the doorknob 3 times, got to go back down the ramp, circle left. Like, I mean,
You
and
know, yeah, the pigs are crazy. I
oh
love
yeah.
them.
And like at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm like FaceTiming with my friends, whatever we're doing, and they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's my pig. Like he screams like a child. As soon as he gets up until he gets fed, he just has to talk. Talk, 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 screaming. And my other pig wasn't like that. So, I mean, all the animals have different personalities, but the pigs are, I mean, they are scientifically the smartest farm animal. Smartest farm animal.
So we've got a question along those lines.
Yeah, shoot.
Jillian and Eva would like to know, do any of the animals, especially the piglets, since they can get small, do they go on any adventures without telling you?
I feel like the pig, okay, so another huge difference between the sheep and cows versus piglet, like, or lambs and calves versus piglets are so loud. Like if they're getting squished by mom, if mom steps on them, if they're somewhere where they're uncomfortable or they're mad or you're handling them, the screech and squeal of a piglet is like glass shattering. So like if they're
Police are going to be called. That's what I say all the time.
yeah, like if they're somewhere out of their comfort zone, then you're gonna know. But when they get a little bit older, like, a week old, they definitely are curious and rambunctious. Like if they, and we built these new farrowing stalls this summer, and on one of the gates, there's like a gap that's like 6 inches between the gate and a wood post. And these week-old piglets like all squeezed out of it, and we're just like walking around the barn. So yes, they do escape, but if you have a space that's big enough for them, they do, do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yours root. Because so my older pig rooted all the time, and Piggity does not. So I'm
Interesting.
curious, like, I don't know that that's genetic or not, but Pansy would root and get under the fence. And in the early days, Christopher would have to go get her like doors down because she would just like book
Yeah.
out of town to go, I don't know where, and try to go catch a pig. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
Versus pig, and she would root up my backyard a bit. She used to root up our couch, which was a hand me down. So we were like, all right, do whatever you want to do. She like burrowed into the cushion. We're like, have a good time. But Piggity never did that. So do yours root or not?
They do, but castrate, do everything, give the piglets their iron shots when they're between 5 and 7 days old, and then
Wait,
they're out of
so
pasture.
explain that. Oh my God. So now here's we go. We're going like down the animal. So explain why they have to get an iron shot.
So usually most mammals, like the mom's milk and colostrum will have the, vitamins and nutrients that the baby needs. But pigs, interestingly enough, they don't have a lot of iron in their colostrum or their milk. So piglets require a shot of iron before they're like a week old, and that's what I've been taught by vets and stuff. So before the piglets go out to pasture, they're worked. So they get their shot of iron. It's really small. It's usually 1 to 2 cc's in their leg. It's like a boost. Um, the boys get castrated so we don't have any accidental.
Do you farrow indoors or are they outdoors?
I don't let the moms farrow outdoors. So I, intentionally breed them. Um, I track their heat cycles, put them in with the boar, and then a week leading up to their farrowing date based on like, okay, are they getting milk? Are they looking like they're going to have their babies? I'll bring them back to the farrowing barn. They have bedding, they have the works, and I have a camera where I watch them. And then when they start, I like to attend, not, I don't like to assist, but I do if I have to, but I do attend every farrowing in case the mama needs help or if a baby's breech and is covered in goo, like I'm there for it.
And so one of the questions that I see in the chat, and that's what I was going to ask. So what I was always taught, and actually now I feel like I need to go back and ask my friends at Autumn Olive Farms because they pasture their pigs 100% of the time. They
Mhm.
farrow outdoors. I mean, they have the view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's beautiful. If you're not following them, Frankie, you absolutely need to.
What is the farm called again?
So Autumn Olive Farms. So it's solely pig production. They actually have their own breed of pig, which is a cross between a Asa
Oshawa?
Asaba and something else. And so they have their own meat breed that they've created, and they actually retail all of their pigs to pretty much high-end restaurants. So they don't retail to the public. They can't even create as much of their own, meat as they want. And I want to ask them if they have to do that because what I've always learned from my animal science background and raising pigs in confinement, not that I support that, but like you're saying, a lot of times bringing sows in to farrow in confinement, they are missing the iron because they're not digging in the dirt, because they're not rooting.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're not getting the natural iron from being in the dirt, ingesting it from rooting and doing all that kind of stuff. Likewise, also the piglets are not getting that because the mom is not covered in dirt from being outside and farrowing outside and then them suckling and then ingesting the dirt and the iron that way. So it would be interesting to hear from them
Yeah.
at Autumn Olive if they, and I'm still in touch with them. They have a pair of llamas just for fun, basically. And then, well, we'll there's a sneak peek there, folks, but I can't even give that yet. But they've got a pair of llamas that's why I'm there, and that's why I've gotten involved with them. So it'd be interesting to see. But that's my experience from an animal science background of why when the sows farrow that the piglets need iron because they're lacking that from the fact that they're raised in confinement. Not good or bad, but just realistic.
It's different. Yeah. Selenium too. I also, especially if the piglets are, if the mom is gestating during the winter, and the ground is frozen, whatnot. I also have been giving them like a loose mineral like you would for your cattle and your sheep and your llamas because I had a sow who was actually selenium deficient and the vet said it was from the winter, her gestation was like peak winter and she farrowed very early spring. But they usually add all this good stuff to their feed, but the iron and now the selenium is something that's, always on my radar.
And
No,
how do you know from Jillian? She would like to know how do you know when they're ready to farrow and about how long does it take?
So,
Wait, I
pig,
have to jump in. The one thing I want to say, and which maybe you'll probably know it, you should. My favorite thing is so most of my people know gestation for llamas is 11 and a half months, 345 to 355 days. But my favorite thing about pigs, it's 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. I
yep.
love
Yeah, it's fun to say too. And I like, yeah, telling people at pigs. Yeah, the gestation is 114 days, which also is 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. So pigs, I mean, when it comes to the adult pigs that you're not going to use for meat, they get dish fed twice a day or, sometimes 3 times a day, just so they don't get too fat. So I know all my pigs, I see all my mama pigs at least twice a day. And you can tell when they're in heat, different behavioral and like physiological cues. So I actually have an app on my phone where I track their heat cycles just like you would track your period or something. I use it's not the same app for humans, but I have an app I use where I can track all the animals' heat cycles. And then when I know it's about to be their time when they are ovulating and able to get pregnant and they're in with our boar, there's other cues that I look for. So she might have, the sides of her hair might be kind of brushed up from being bred. You might actually see her be bred from that date. Then I can calculate, about when she'll have her babies. But same as humans, they start to bag up. So they start to create milk. Their teats become really firm. Sometimes they even like spill milk. Um, Pigs, I mean, their vulvas get really big. And they make
Do
nests.
not, nothing is like my community is used to
Yeah,
us
okay.
our llamas around and like videoing vulvas and looking
Yes,
at
that's my whole camp. But like around like lambing and stuff too. Like it's like, okay, she's about to lamb. Like look at her vulva. Like my
no, we
like
have baby watch like for like 2 weeks plus. We're like literally like zooming in on
yes,
vulvas
on the
and like
vulva. I love it. Yeah. Flat headlamp on the vulva. You're like staring. It's so yeah, I have a
I'm
camera.
not weird, everybody.
Okay, yeah, no, that's I get you. Pigs make a nest. So you'll see on the camera, the mom will actually, I give them a ton of bedding and stuff. You'll see mom will be around her pen with mouthfuls of hay, and they'll make a nest. They usually do that before, like a day before they have their babies. But it's very obvious. And then they go into labor, but the
Now,
pro
did you say, but I don't want to assume, do you do AI or natural service?
we do natural service.
Saying, okay, cool.
I eventually, because I've been prioritizing the sheep and the beef cattle program, and genetics in those two programs, but I eventually want to introduce some new genetics to our pig operation where I would do AI.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at some of the chaps. So
You
Jillian,
make a
there
mess
really
too,
is
I
that for everything, which is true, right? I mean, there absolutely is. And honestly, even just listening to you conversate, like I'm just amazed at the depth and the science, end of things that you're incorporating into the program, and especially, having been all self-taught. And regardless if you went to schooling for these kinds of things, there's so much technology, things change so much. So it's also just about staying current, right, in everything that you do. However, I will give you credit. One of the things that I really try to not focus on, but I just feel like sometimes it's easier to focus and be an expert on one thing versus a jack of all trades. But you're working for an organization to call it that, where you do have to focus on all the different species. And while we focused on pigs a lot, that is just like one small portion. So what I do want to circle back to, just because I'm interested, so, am I correct in saying Liberty Farms is a CSA?
We have so we at the farm, there's a few enterprises.
Okay.
There's the livestock, there's a certified organic vegetable garden, and then we have a horse boarding equestrian center.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
even know
So
that.
I'm not involved with the other enterprises, but the organic vegetable farm does have a CSA. The only product from my end is eggs. You can do an egg share for your CSA.
Oh, so the CSA part is totally separate. So the part that you manage, are those the products that are, so is it a farm stand that's in upstate New York and Parks, well, Park Slope is not a farm stand. I get that. That's, I'm assuming, a very nice like pop-up shop in like a store type. But in the upstate New York, is that a storefront as well?
Yeah, we have a farm store on the farm, like
Oh,
the close
okay.
to the barn where you sheared, where Larry was shorn. So we have that. It's like a honor system store. So we have like local goods from other farms, but then we have our meat and our vegetables and eggs. But we do farmers markets, and then we also have the Park Slope store.
So, because I knew some people might not be familiar, so I know CSA as community supported agriculture, and somebody is asking, which is valid because I'm sure a lot of people don't know. I know because we have one local that we used to be a member of. Like, how would you describe what community supported agriculture means? Most of the time, it is related to vegetable agriculture. It can incorporate meat agriculture, and it actually can incorporate wool agriculture. I don't know many on the wool aspect of things anymore, but it's something I'm always interested in. So, what would be your definition to describe to somebody?
So CSA, basically you pay X amount of money at the beginning of the season. And there's a lot of farms will like do a different size share. So you can do a small share, medium, large, for example, depending on your family size and whatnot. So you pay X amount of money at the beginning of the season, and you get produce every single week or every other week. Different for X amount of weeks, right? But different farms have different styles. So some farms, okay, I pay $500, I get the small share, so I'm gonna get five vegetables or like five things of vegetables every week from this farm. And it's comes in a box, I come pick it up, whatever. Liberty's different, and I like this about our vegetable CSA is you pick up at our farm store, but it's you can pick what you want. So you don't end up with like, 10 eggplants and like carrots and stuff. Like you go to the fridge and there might be ten different types of vegetables and you can pick which five you want that week, which I like. I like that style.
The only thing I will argue about that is, and the one thing which I'm loving because I'm reading the chat, if you're not familiar with CSA, I encourage people to look into it because I would hope that by now in every area there is some type of CSA. And if they're large enough, they might not maybe be right in your town, but then there's some CSAs that are big enough where they can support pickups at different locations. And I know that that's true here on Long Island, which is super cool. And so you're still signing up for a share. And even though, let's say, for instance, where I live, the CSA is right in Brookhaven, which is barely the next town over, they offer pickups, in different areas. The one thing I will challenge you that I loved about being part of that CSA was we were forced to, like, yes, you could, and it was a sliding scale, which was really cool too. And it might still be. I haven't done it recently, but it was sort of like, this is what we would ask you to pay. If you could pay more, great. And the benefit, of course, of being close enough was you got your CSA, you could pick it up. And then when you're at the farm, you would have an opportunity to do an extra, like you pick of certain things or
Cool.
flowers or whatever. But what I loved was that it put stuff in my basket that I'm like, what the freak is this? And I don't even know what to do with it. Now, not that foreign, I get it. Do not anybody come for me. But, like, for instance, in the early days, I got beets in my basket. I'm like, I don't really know. And I learned to love roasting beets. Now, my husband thinks they taste like dirt. He hates them. But I will roast the beets. You peel the skins off, and I've got this amazing, like, summer beet salad that I would do, or like bok choy. I'm not at the grocery store buying that, but I found like a crunchy bok choy salad that I would make. So I do love that it forces you to figure out how to use certain things. So again, this is not fiber related at all, which is what TDOC is all about. So I just hope that somebody is listening, watching, and it might be something that you look into because also certain CSAs, as I'm looking at certain things, they will also give you recipes. So sometimes they recognize, hey, we're giving you this weird thing and you might not know what to do with it, but here's a recipe, here's how you can use it. And it just really broadens people's horizons if you're willing to take the time.
Yeah, I want to eventually do a meat CSA too, but I've only been at the farm for a year and a half and they weren't producing enough consistently of all the species before. So I didn't have enough meat when I first started to be able to do a CSA. But eventually, as the production is more consistent, I definitely want to do some type of meat share, meat CSA, something like that.
Now, there's too many different directions I want to go in, so I'm gonna like go backwards because I know in our conversation, and it doesn't sound like, which is fine, any of it got sent for the basket, but you mentioned that there were fiber products. So at some point in time, did the farm have fiber sheep, and like, why did that change? Like, I was curious about that.
Okay, so yes, the farm, I initially heard about Liberty Farm because I had a friend that was working there and they needed a sheep consultant because their sheep program was not working. So I love all the animals, but sheep are like my expertise, my specialty. And I'm sure a lot of you have raised sheep before, but sheep
No,
are
actually, so I will say
harmless.
The
No?
predominant community are my knitters, crocheters, they're fiber lovers. But I only have, and I haven't looked at my participant list, there's very, very few people that are with me that actually are involved in animal husbandry, which is
Got
why
it.
we love this kind of stuff. So, yeah,
Okay.
make no assumptions.
So sheep are incredibly hard to raise because they are susceptible. They're so stoic until they're about to kick the bucket. Like if
I
they're
was
sick,
going to say, people say sheep just want to die.
they're born to die. Like people say sheep are born to die. Beef cattle farmers like hate sheep, like because they're not super robust animals. And if you don't take care of them and you don't know your flock and you start, if you don't yeah, keep the integrity of your flock intact and you start buying animals from different places, you're gonna get sick sheep. Like if you don't have a biosecurity program, like sheep are just very fragile. They're very susceptible to internal parasites as well, which is a whole different issue. But yeah, sheep are
I
just
will
incredible.
just say, I'm only going to give sheep a little bit of credit because Angora goats absolutely trump sheep if you've not done them before.
I have not. But
Fine.
they're just pains in the butt.
Stay where you are, but I'm just telling
Yeah.
you, yes, I understand that exactly what you're saying is what everybody says in the
Yeah.
industry.
I don't want I
Take
goats are
that
like
one step further, and Angora goats, which I love because regardless, but I just had to put that out there. Like
yeah.
Angora goats literally are parasite mongers, is how they're.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
So I think my years raising sheep, I've learned how to, keep really healthy sheep. I can scan a sheep and know it's crazy. I've tried to explain this to someone before and they thought I was like Temple Grandin vibes, but I can
Oh,
like scan a flock of sheep and like my brain will like color them if there's something wrong with them. So I can look at a flock and like most of the sheep are green. That means that they're like good. If I see a sheep that has like maybe has pink eye or looks a little off, then my brain will color it as yellow. And then if there's like a sheep that looks really sick to me, it turns like red in my brain. That's just, I don't know how, I just know how to look at sheep, which I sound
no,
crazy.
and I'm only, again, this is what I do. So sorry to interrupt. First of all, I just want to say foreshadowing to tomorrow night. That Temple Grandin reference is amazing. First of all, Temple Grandin narrated a video that was done by Isabella Rossellini that I was a part of. That was amazing. Second of all, she actually did the forward for the book. So if you're not doing anything tomorrow night, actually, a veterinarian, Melinda McCall, she did a book and she's actually done others. Apparently, it's called Driving Home Naked. And
Nice.
it's and other misadventures of a country veterinarian. But
I've been,
the
I've been,
forward, it says a worthwhile read, Temple Grandin. So like that was again last
oh,
night. I said the same thing. I'm like, none of this is planned. I could not have, excuse my language, put all this shit together and had planned it if I could have. So the fact that you just said that, the fact that this is here, the fact that Temple Grandin was actually the narrator for a video that I was in, it's just all like super, super good stuff. And so again,
that's
tomorrow
worth it.
night, if you're not doing anything, you will love tomorrow night just as well, I think, being it's a veterinarian. But I
Nice. I
appreciate,
love that.
what you're saying. So yeah, I'm sorry, continue. I had to interject.
Um,
You're like, what the
like
hell is
talking about
that?
my weird brain and
I
like
know,
how
I
it
know,
works.
I know.
I'm like,
I'm
oh God.
sorry.
So I started consulting for their sheep program, and the pre people that worked at the farm did not have experience with sheep, which is fine. And if you get thrown into sheep management and you don't know about them, it's a very slippery slope. And after I saw those sheep, I'm like, I really, again, like I have a lot of gumption and I love challenges. So I decided that I was going to go work for Liberty Farms and help them with their whole livestock operation. But um, I don't my approach to farming and work is I don't want to be the best, but I do want to be excellent. I want to be excellent in everything that I do. And that means that I challenge myself every day. Like I don't being the best means I think you're challenging people around you, right? But being excellent means that I'm challenging myself every day and making sure that, my work is incredible. And I was not happy with the fiber, and I know nothing about fiber, but I was not happy with all the different breeds of sheep that came from all these different farms. who, there wasn't a biosecurity or quarantine protocol. So I was just not comfortable as someone who strives for excellence, especially with sheep, to have this fiber operation when I had the opportunity to buy some ewes from Kinderhook Farm and start a really excellent meat sheep operation. So Aaron came and he sheared there for a couple years and um we sh yeah, I just got rid I had to get rid of all the fiber sheep. It wasn't worth,
I'm just curious, do you know what any of the breeds were? Just
there was literally name any there were Cheviot, there were Jacob sheep who are supposed to be on grass, who are like those look they're like moose sheep, like that's a grain sheep. It was a lot of breeds that were show sheep that should have been on a strict grain ration and were not, they shouldn't have been in a grass-fed system. It's just,
Sure.
it's just not, there were Cheviots, there were Jacobs, there were Shetlands, there were Katahdins, there were some Dorpers. It
All of
was
that is like, as
crazy.
somebody who cheers, there's
Yeah.
not a single
No,
sheep
it was
in there.
literally like yeah, it was a lot. And I personally know myself, it's so much easier to body condition score or just look at a hair sheep versus a sheep that's covered in wool. It's like looking at someone naked versus someone wearing a huge coat and all these layers. It's like you can't tell.
I will say it's interesting, like as a shearer of somebody with fibered animals, I'll show up and I can tell immediately versus that owner who is like, oh, well, they just look woolly to me. And I can see through that. So it's
Yeah,
whatever your eye is used to, right? And that's not a kudos to me. I think it's just a great admission for the general public listening
yeah,
about like what your eye is trained to. And
exactly.
that goes back to like what you were saying earlier, which is also my intention of just even knowing your animals.
Totally.
And that is not something you can teach. And it's the hardest thing because for me, like for you, kudos to you. I hope that you are blessed. I hope that people appreciate you, whoever your boss is. I hope they understand who they have. I
Thank
can
you.
probably guarantee they
I do. I feel very respected and appreciated.
I don't know. I mean, if they're not animal people, they cannot totally understand what
Yeah.
you are bringing to the table. So, as somebody who runs her own farm, but cannot be out with my animals 24/7, if I want to be able to do all of this, I
Mhm.
know what it's like to be able to then try to also find people to train to take care of my animals. And when the day is done, I guess my point is nobody's going to know my animals like me. But
Mhm.
yet, these are not necessarily your animals, but you're still saying things and talking about things that I find interesting that I know I'll pick up on
Yeah.
in a heartbeat. And that's not something you can teach somebody. So make sure you don't ever forget that.
Thank you. And at the end of the day, like farming is not incredibly lucrative. So if I didn't, like, I feel so called and drawn to it.
Really? Really? We're not driving Lamborghinis?
Or
Really?
no, we're really not. But it's like I have an incredible, well, it's me and three other guys. I have such an incredible team, but it's nice because the guys that I work with are either much older than me or they have families. Not saying that I'm never going to get there. Obviously, I'm going to age and have family one day, but they're more like I'm there during the day, but they're very forgiving if I'm on the night shift, right? Like I love checking the mom cows at night if they're calving. I can get up at 2 a.m. and check a ewe that's lambing. I can go sit for 3 hours while a pig is farrowing at 2 a.m. And if I text the guys, I'm like, okay, I just farrowed this pig. I'm exhausted. I'll be there at 8 a.m. instead of 7. They're like the morning shift and I'm the night shift. So I feel like the dynamic also it's more forgiving, not more forgiving, but it's a little bit more forgiving than if I owned my own farm and I was doing it myself. Because I can be like, okay, I pulled a calf, and the title of that book, Driving Home Naked, is hilarious because I've definitely done that after you pull
It
a calf.
has to do with
I was
cows.
like,
Right. Do you
yeah,
not agree? I'll be honest, I have not read it. I did not pick it up,
I've
but
never read it.
I
I've never
knew
read it.
reading that title. I even
Yeah,
just said that tonight. I'm like, that has to do with cow
yeah.
ejection somewhere.
Even sheep. I had a sheep. I pulled. She had.
No,
I pulled a
you
sheep
might be
once.
all right,
I
man.
was wearing Crocs, man. All of her. baby's stuff, including the lamb, came out like I drove home naked or like on a trash bag that night during
I know,
lambing.
like I am dying because I'm putting my bet on cow.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
I
that's how I leave it, right? That's what I said. My interview style is I'm actually not going to read a single chapter. My bet is on cow because I've seen people. So I work with vet tech students. So even if
yeah,
a cow decides to defecate, right? Let's put it politely,
yeah,
you're driving home naked. Like
yeah.
you
Because with the cows, you're my height. I mean, I'm tall. I'm 5'8.5". When you're pulling a calf, that's the splash zone for my height, man. Like, and especially when you're pulling down with the chains, like that's even. It's yeah. I'm in the splash zone. It's
Absolutely. And you're even using words and like I'm just gonna like she just said chains if you heard that, and that's because there's obstetric chains. So when you're trying to pull a calf out from a cow, if she's not doing that on her own, there's literally handles with a chain that you wrap around their legs to pull them out. That sounds horrifying, but that's the amount of pressure that you need in order to be able to get these animals out. You can't even do it manually. So, and then when that happens, for all my ladies who have had their own children, the fluids that, eject as a result of it. So,
but these
well,
babies, we're talking like 70 to 100 pound of baby. Like so you just yeah.
I'm like, if you did not sign up for this, I'm really sorry, but right, this is exactly. So I'm just again, last night we had an epiphany. I'm just so glad you're here because I'm like, that is what I think that's about. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's epic. We've all been there. Like literally, I think my favorite story is like somebody started lambing, and I'm not really sure why, but I had like a lollipop in my mouth because who knows? And I was just like, bunk, just like, I was like, hold on to this, or I think I stuck it in my mouth. I pulled out what I needed to, and I just grabbed my
I
lollipop
love
and
it.
kept on trucking, and that's why we're healthy, I think, right? It's antibacterial, anti whatever scrub, like was just not a thing. And,
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for the earth and natural bacteria and just all of the things that, we get our hands in and get ourselves dirty with. And it's nature and it's beautiful. And,
So beautiful.
that's the stuff that people love. Um,
I know
and
I still cry every time a baby's born. Or like if I have to, especially when I deliver them, I get goosebumps and I cry. Like it never gets old. The babies are it's insane.
it is. And but sometimes I feel bad, right? Because then it's all about the new babies. And
Yeah.
then, we sort of like in this community, it's like we kind of forget, it's like last year's babies. I mean, they're still important and we still love them, but it's always like the new babies.
Of
So
course.
that they get all the features. So like right now it's like Appa and Mimi, but we still love Roger, and so it's hard. We sometimes have our favorites, but they're all lovely, and it depends on each of the animals and the amount of time you have to spend with them too. I mean that's part of it too. Um, I mean, again, I think what's really cool about this for me, and to just kind of like circle it around for the community, is I make no qualms about like all of my guests are not necessarily fiber focused. And I think it's cool for them to hear decisions about maybe why a farm had, fibered sheep of various kinds, and none of which I would call fine wool. Maybe Jacob can slide in there. They're kind of like medium wool, depending. But so it's interesting, in that sense. And yet, still bringing an appreciation for like the animal husbandry of things. And it still all ties in because the most important factor, as I said earlier, is how you care for the animals is how well that product comes to the table. Whether it's meat or whether it's yarn, it's all about where it starts. And I get that if not everybody utilizes natural products for one reason or another, that's certainly their choice. But I think that my goal is always to open people's eyes to the faces behind the production, to understand that there is love and there is care behind all of that. And that even though, in your case, all of your animals are going to end up as a product in that sense. That doesn't mean that they're not loved and cared for along the way. And I think that message is so important. And I encourage people to seek that out. I mean, here on Long Island, where I am, we have an organic poultry farm, out on the North Fork. That's the most expensive chicken that honestly I get as a tip when I go to shear because they also happen to have sheep. Can I buy that chicken? I'm not sure that I can, but it's there. And I think what's important is for people to understand the process, though, that also what goes in it. That's no different than my community here that supports the yarn that I create. I actually got a call this evening, as I'm trying to get ready for this. And oftentimes we'll get calls because people are looking for yarn, but they don't understand what we have. And while I had the person on the phone, hoping to shop, not understanding we had certain hours, the exact description, as he said to his wife, he's like, well, we could try to see their yarn, or do you want to go to Michael's? And I literally had to take a breath. And I'm like, look, I will save you time. If you are looking for Michael's yarn versus what I have to offer, I can tell you, go to Michael's. And it wasn't a matter of don't waste both of our time, but that is just apples and not even oranges. That's like some other fruit in some other country. I don't even know. So, and that's why I do this, is that so people do understand the story behind what you do, what I do. And that doesn't take away from people that produce other products that can be more economical, let's just say.
Okay. And
But
it's worth to note, like if you know your farmer, if someone comes up to me, well, first of all, a lot of the farmers markets take SNAP, which is fantastic.
yeah,
If someone walks up to me and I'm working the farmers market and they're like, X amount of ground beef, I really can't afford that. I'll be like, okay, then what can you afford? Like, this isn't the grocery store, we're the farmers, we're making the prices. Like having those conversations, can go a long way.
no, absolutely. Education is everything. And like I said, that's why we do this, so that people can have a better understanding of that kind of stuff. And so I don't know. I mean, I know again tonight went in a million different
Yeah.
directions. Of course, as I'm looking at the time, I knew I asked everybody, I made sure I asked Frankie, I was like, do you have a hard stop? She was just like, no, not really. I'm in California. I was like, fabulous. I'm like, we're just going to kind of roll. I literally could go on for another hour, just talking about
Sweating.
everything because you're sweating. I'm freezing because it's below, I don't even know. It's below freezing here. But finally, thankfully, my porch has cooled off. So I love the, differences of where we are. And yet sometime soon you're coming back this way and you'll be back in our environment, which I can so appreciate. And again, I realized that just a small portion of this was about the llama that I sheared for you, but I think that that's what I love so much about what I do is in just my travels, I get to meet so many different people, farms, operations, experiences, because shearing Larry was an experience. We didn't know what we were going to get. I literally was saying my Hail Marys. I had no idea if he was going to be able to be shorn without sedatives, all of those kinds of things. And those are the things that I'm still willing to do. I was definitely more willing when I was younger. I'm definitely more cautious about it now, which is why you spent an hour on the phone with me. But
Good.
all of that is just to say that there's that commonality. And so for everybody on tonight, as I kind of wrap this up, again, as I said, I could go on for a million hours about it. I, first of all, Frankie, want to thank you because again, I messaged you months ago and I was like, hey, I would love to have you on. In the end, I kind of wrapped this all up at the 11th hour, but I knew I had you on board early on. You were like, I'm game. I'm like, sounds great. Again, I've found over the years that this community appreciates almost even more stuff that's outside outside of the fiber nature of things. So I know I'm going to get a lot of great response, from this. And so I appreciate your time while I know you're on vacation time. Although I gotta say, you were just like going off to Hawaii the
I
last time.
know. I never travel. I never travel. This is like I don't. This is not a good
Well,
example,
close.
but
While we were trying to narrow this down, she was like, I'm just
no,
about to leave for Hawaii. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Now you're in
no, no.
California. I'm not
But
feeling.
this is better because if I was seven, like if someone asked me to do something at 7 p.m. when I'm on the East Coast, I'm like, that is so late. Like I will not be able to get out of bed in the morning. I go to bed at like I'm like in bed by 7:30 on the
Oh,
East
wait,
Coast.
why? What time are you up?
Right. Well, I wake up at like 6, but I love to sleep. I love the winter. I just like lock in 7:30 p.m. I'm like just so cozy and warm in the
Oh my
winter.
gosh. I
Yeah.
mean, and agreed, like I'm inside, but there, like, it's just so funny. I love it. I thought you were going to tell me though, because a lot of people, when they think of farming, they're like, oh, are you up at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m.? And my explanation is no, I'm not milking cows. Like, I'm not
Like
milking.
having whatever, yes, but no. I get
Yeah,
there at like
I'm,
37.
I'm not up that early. So, you know what? If I'm up at like 6, that's good, and we kind of roll from there. But obviously, evenings is when we can get everyone's attention. So that's why we try to do this. So, I mean, really, again, like with that, guys, while there's no necessarily like drop related to this, I'm excited to actually get the things that Frankie has sent along for our keepsake basket. I know Erin's been doing her job of dropping everything in the chat to remind you guys of all those kinds of things. Now, the one thing I will say, and like this is a kudos to you, I mean, and to me as well, but so we've been rolling for 2 hours. We have been steady at, I mean, it says 38, but that's -3. So we've been steady at 35, for this entire time, which is what I got last night, which is always what tells me that people are absolutely so interested in everything that you're talking about. So I just want to pass that along, to you. With that, what I'm going to ask you though is so we do every night, the guest picks a number. So I need you to pick a number from, 1 to 35. And then I kind of scroll through my participant list and we just pick that number random. And then that person gets a $25 gift certificate to shop with us. So what is your number?
My number is 23.
All right, cool. So I'm going to go all the way to the end because that's the easier way to do it. Because I do this legit. We don't have a fancy way to do this, people. So if we're at 35, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on, I got to scroll. 8, 10. It's like a drum roll, right?
Dun.
So that actually lands on, and this is a name again, as I said in the beginning, that I'm not familiar with. So it's coming up as Linda and Selena. So if that's not anybody that Frankie knows, then hopefully that's somebody new to us because it's not anybody that I know. So I am going to ask, I hope, obviously you're live because I see you on my participant list. I am going to need your information if you can drop it in the chat. Most everybody I know, so I'm like, I got you. But we're going to need like an actual first and last name and an email address so that we can make sure we create an account for you and give you your $25 credit to Shop with Life. So congratulations and welcome for being a part of TDOC. I mean, usually at this time, I've gone through all my stuff and Erin's been taking care of everything in the chat. We've gone through everything I need to go through. I mean, again, we even did our little foreshadowing. Remember, tomorrow night, everybody, we're going to be joined, as I said, by the large animal veterinarian. So I think tomorrow night is going to be another like complete geek out session of some really, really fun stuff that I'm looking forward to. So I feel like at this point, it's really just usually where I say like, which is hard, it's open-ended, but like, what would you want to end with? Like, what do you want to leave people with? I mean, I definitely, guys, you've got to follow Frankie There's just really like fun videos and adventures. I know that's what you look for from me. You're going to love the stuff from her. I know there's not an online store, which is hard for people to support Liberty Farms, but obviously, if you're in the upstate New York area, Ghent, New York, or if you're in the Park Slope area, New York City, you can certainly support their stores that way. Outside of that, I mean, what do you want to part with? What do you want to share with people? What is the message that you want to get across?
Well, if
Right? This
anyone's
is
ever
not
in my
saving the
area,
world. It's not the
yeah,
Miss America pageant.
I
It's
do
just
have a
like,
good message.
yes.
Well, first of all, if you're ever in my area and would love to see, I'd love to show you on the farm. But second, if you're like in a role model or like a management leadership position in whatever you do, like give the underdog a chance or like trust your gut. You know, if there's a kid or someone that wants to come learn about what you're doing and you're like, have no experience, you're not sure, like give them a chance if your gut says so. Because I wouldn't be here farming if people didn't give me a chance. And here we are. So that's my
That's
inspirational.
and like like now like I would not expect you like okay so you don't know me that well
You crying?
like all the time
Oh,
so
crying. It's good. I know. Okay, I wasn't supposed to make people cry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But it's true.
because though everybody like my people know me I cry all the time but the funny thing is again I could not make this all connect in any way possible but so Mimi who works for me she's from Spain and I did this whole round of interviews like a year ago and here's this like tiny little scrappy like pink haired person who like really just smiled but didn't say much in this open interview process. It was my 11th round. I was sort of like, I got to make a decision. A year and a half later, she's actually going to be one of our guests on TDOC because she works for me. And literally, it's because I was just like, you know what? I just went on a gut feeling. Like, I just went on a gut feeling and I was like, I'm just gonna, I don't know, I'm just gonna give this a try. And meanwhile, everybody knows her from all of like her videos and her reels and all of her funny songs and things that she does, you know, but at the same time, like she's my right hand woman has just done a wonderful job. So that was like an amazing segue. And actually, Esmeralda, who works for me, also is another young woman who had no experience but had an interest in animals and is in college. You know, I'm constantly hiring people that just want to learn or want to try because we're on Long Island. Nobody's coming to me with an animal background. But you know, all I can do is just go by that. So I think that's an amazing. It wasn't what I expected, but I think that was perfect.
Inspirational quote.
I love it. I love it. Well, Frankie, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for all the
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on in the chat. I'll figure it out later.
I had a quick question, super quick.
Yeah, shoot.
Frankie, do you sell me at Rhinebeck?
No, the closest one to Rhinebeck would be Kingston.
Okay.
Oh, now where in Kingston? Is it at a farmer's market
Yeah,
or?
we do the Kingston Farmers Market. We used to do Millerton, but not anymore. Yeah, so Kingston is the upstate one we do. So it's every Saturday in the, spring, summer, and now it's once a month.
Interesting. Cool. Now, the only thing, and I'm struggling for 1 second, of course, this is being videoed while I'm struggling, is because from the matter of last night to tonight, Zoom has decided to change their formats. And so the little dots in which I normally save stuff is not there, if you can believe that, Erin. So I'm not really sure what to do with regards to saving the chat before we end. So I'm just going to ask, do you think you have everything that we need, Erin, before I close out? And I'm going to have to figure this out for tomorrow. Is that
Do you
possible?
have a more button at the bottom of chat?
Oh, well, I have a more button in general, but not at the like and of course this is I mean I could scroll down to the end but usually it's at the top and now at the top it just says everyone and new chat and I don't have my three little dots that I had last night. I hate when they think they have to change the format and I just scrolled all the way down to the bottom and I don't have my little dots anymore. So
Okay. Frankie, do you see three little dots at the top of the chat window?
No, I only have okay, so there's more on the bottom and it says whiteboards, notes, docs, captions, transcript.
Yeah, they've changed everything in the course of one evening because I have more, and when I click on that, it has nothing to do with saving the chat. So,
Okay, Laura has her hand up.
all right, we'll grab that.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can manage that. So, hang on one second, and let me get to the top of that so I can, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really sure why there. All right, Laura, hang on. I'm going to pull you in. I'm going to add spotlight. Go ahead, Laura. Oh, wait, hang on one second. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yeah, so when I asked the question this is so interesting and so exciting, and I never heard Tabitha talk so much because we're always so busy when we're together. I've known her since 4-H years ago.
Yeah.
But when I asked about Rhinebeck, the reason is because there are people who sell lamb there and and beef and other stuff. And I've bought leg of lamb there and brought it home and from organic farms. And I didn't know what farm it was, but I didn't mean if you had a store in Rhinebeck. I meant if you went to the New York State Sheep and Wool Festival, because
Oh,
it's the
yes,
large.
I bet.
Everybody, we just all call it Rhinebeck, but it's the New
Got
York
it.
State Sheep and Wool Festival. Tabitha is always there, and I take my knitting group there. It's a field trip, and
I don't have a booth there, but I go and walk around and just look. But
yeah,
we don't have a booth.
I think that would be a good place for you.
Well, the only thing I will say, Laura, is literally, I joke around, it's not a joke. Like, you have to sell your unborn child to be able to vend there. Like, it is so difficult to get into that venue, despite how big it is. It's unreal. And of course, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of going from, farmers market to, being able to do a venue like that. I mean, it certainly is great exposure, for
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely. But yeah, it's kind of like twofold, in that sense. And especially if they've got venues in Kingston, which is right, like just right, like up above it. So the nice thing is they're probably reaching that population, which Kingston is a very up and growing population, uniquely enough, very similar to where you are right now in California. So I find that interesting, like very full circle, that way. But yeah, and Laura, thank you. I know you commented about last night. I knew you were gonna love tonight. You were gonna absolutely love tomorrow night. So I hope you'll be able to be with us again.
this was so interesting, and I have my own chickens, and I had some rescue chickens that had their beaks cut, and they were
Ew.
really, and they were some of the sweetest, nicest chickens. And the only thing I beg to differ with you is I think that my chickens do have,
Have personalities. I knew someone would come for me for that one. Yes, people.
and they're smart too. So they have personality. Very quick example, because this is all getting late for everybody, especially all your farm people and whatnot. But the after Hurricane Sandy, during Hurricane Sandy, my husband brought all the chickens inside the house, and we put them in one of our big dog crates, or a few big dog crates and whatnot. And then a few days after Sandy, Tapithia, do you remember we had Nemo, which was a superstorm of snow?
Oh, I can't keep track of all of them, but
We had Hurricane Sandy, and then within like 3 or 4 days, we had Nemo, which was like a big snowstorm. Well, my husband said, the chickens are fine out there. They have their down coats. Okay. So he went out there the next morning and he said, well, the boss chicken, this Barred Rock, she come out and she read him the riot act. Right. And then he said, each one came out and was like, why bring us inside? And they totally have personality.
Love it.
They do. They do. I mean, for sure. Every animal does, of course. Now, granted, I don't know where chickens fall on the intelligence list. I know for sure pigs are the highest on the farm list. And look, I love my sheep, and I'm going to tell you they're somewhere on the bottom of the intelligence list. As much as I love my sheep, I definitely say they're not necessarily the smartest. But of course, every animal, no matter how big or small, they do have their own individual.
Okay. The New York Times did an article several years ago saying when chicken keeping in suburbia was a big thing. And they said the chickens have the intelligence of the average 2-year-old. So they know where their food is. They know where they're supposed to sleep. They can be naughty, So I tell my friends, yeah, the chickens have the intelligence of a normal 2-year-old, but not your grandchildren. Those are special.
Right, exactly. Your grandchildren are way better than my chickens. Exactly.
That's right.
I think that's a good analogy. I'm going to use that from now on. But thank you, Laura, for joining. I really appreciate it always.
I'm really enjoying this. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
And Catherine, go ahead.
Happy New Year. I'm going to try to come to the vet one tomorrow. That sounds really exciting. Yes.
Yeah, I hope that you will. Erin, go ahead. Did you have Catherine Quirk?
Catherine Quirk has her hand up.
Yep, I will get that. Let me bring Catherine in.
And Madeline and Sandra have the ability to save chat for us.
Perfect, because I've completely lost mine, and actually even right now I can't even bear with me. I really am hating Zoom at this moment, and I don't care. It's being recorded. Zoom can hear what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm unmuted, I think.
Yeah, and it's not even allowing me. Literally right now, I'm clicking on it, and I can't add your spotlight, and so I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So, anyway, thank you so much for this. It was wonderful, Frankie. It was so great to meet you, and what a great story. I posted in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, but when I was in college, I had a boyfriend who spent the summer farrowing pigs as his summer job at the university. And I will say that we made him shower outside, hose off outside before he came in. But what I was really coming on to say was at the bottom of my chat, it says, it says who can see your messages recording on, and when you tap it, it says chat messages are being posted in team chat, which stays available after the meeting. So I don't know what that feature is, but there you go.
I have no idea, but none of that's on mine. So
okay.
Like I said, for all the recording, for all of it out there, you know what? This is live, and that is what it is. But I appreciate everybody's help.
We're trying. Anyway, thank you so much, Frankie and Tabitha. That was great.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate it so much. So that's great. All right. Well, like I said, hopefully if anybody can save it, great. Erin, if you've got all we need, I think really the most important thing is just our people that got the $25 store credit. I love to know who they are. That's my biggest concern. Outside of that, you know what? Erin will fill me in on all of the chatting that happened and everything you guys had to say about it. But I know you guys enjoyed it. I know you'll text me. I know you'll hit me up on Instagram, and I can always forward that to Frankie as well so that she can see it. So Frankie, thank you so much again. A million times over for being a part of this. I look forward to touching base with you. Hopefully I'll be coming to Sheer Larry again, I hope.
Yeah, in the spring.
Amazing. All right, guys. Much love to you. Don't forget, join us tomorrow night, same time, same place. I look forward to it. And thank you so much to everybody. All right. Bye, everybody. Good night.